Typo 22. Please update situation.
Stand by. Any more details on this call?
Suspect is in a silver BMW.
We all have that lamb in the area. And that speeding vehicle. Slow down. Stopping delivery. Send me out some backup.
Man's intense and selfish desire for wealth is defined as greed. Greediness comes into play when self-indulgence is allowed to take over somebody's principles. Unfortunately, in today's world, animals often face the dreadful impact of mankind's insatiable hunger for money. (2016) March 23rd. Annabella Polanski leisurely strolls through a patch of field, indulging herself in the tranquility of nature. It is late afternoon, and the crunching sound of her shoes on the soil creates a relaxing, monotonous sound. A sudden rustling amongst the tall grass startles her and scares some pigeons into taking flight. She quickly drops to her haunches, just in time to see somebody rising from the tall grass. It looks like a young male in his late 20s. His entire demeanor appears suspicious as he nervously looks around. Annabella freezes, but the loose gravel under her feet gives way. The man sees her and takes off, and runs into the adjacent plantation. Scared and muddled, Annabella finds the pack and nervously peeks inside. At first glance, the contents shock her, and with trembling hands, she phones the police. As detectives arrive on the scene and open the bag, they are puzzled by the stench coming from within. Inside the bag is a cardboard box containing 3 large eggs carefully wrapped in newspaper. Found in a side pocket is a small kitchen knife with a bent tip, a shirt on which a dark stain is clearly visible, and experience denotes that it is blood. Unpacking the last piece of evidence, they are not prepared for the sickening sight that confronts them: severed antelope legs. As another caller reports a different wildlife incident to the department's crime line, an environmental management inspector responds. He rushes to the crime scene before any evidence is disturbed. These inspectors are empowered to investigate cases, inspect premises in question, seize evidence in criminal activities, and make the required arrests. Although they are not permitted to prosecute cases in court, all cases are referred to the National Prosecuting Authority. During the investigation of environmental crimes, The South African Police Service plays a crucial role in working alongside these inspectors.
Professor Katza from the National Zoo explains that when it comes to solving crime, forensic genetics and DNA is a significant tool. By extracting DNA for identification or as evidence, forensic geneticists are able to bring the guilty to justice or exonerate the innocent. In South Africa, the forensic genetic laboratories at the National Zoological Gardens play a vital role in assisting authorities in solving wildlife crimes. Wildlife DNA forensics, therefore, bridges the gap between conservation genetics and law enforcement.
Wildlife forensics can be broadly defined as the application of science to investigate crime cases involving biological material. A variety of techniques allows scientists to examine, identify, and compare evidence. The types of evidence analyzed by a wildlife forensic analyst include blood, teeth, bones, claws, feathers, feces, soil, or stomach contents. Scientists may also investigate materials used to kill or harm animals, such as poisons, pesticides, or weapons. Forensic geneticists use protein and DNA analyses to provide information about the identity of a sample or the link between the crime scene and the suspect. When a sample is very small or refined to unidentifiable forms of its morphology, DNA analysis can be particularly useful. DNA is the chain of links that carry genetic information in the cells of animals, plants, and humans. DNA contains 2 copies of chromosomes, one from the mother and one from the father. DNA typing and genetic profiling is at present one of the most effective procedures in dealing with wildlife crime cases, and forms the basis of DNA wildlife forensics.
The trace blood found on the kitchen knife is confirmed to be that of animal origin, specifically from the protected ground pangolin, which is listed on CITES 1 appendix. The knife itself was most probably used for the brutal killing. The blood stains on the shirt also match the DNA profile of the pangolin. The eggs were identified as those of the wild-caught crane, which is classified as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List. The severed antelope legs are those of a Sunni antelope, which is also listed on South Africa's top list.
With DNA findings in hand, an arrest is made later that day, despite the suspect immediately blaming the police for planting evidence. When the suspect's hideout is searched by the police, they make another disturbing discovery. In one of the rooms, they find a trapdoor in the floorboards, providing access to the foundations underneath. Barely alive, they find a pangolin. Supported by the evidence provided through DNA profiling, a compelling case is presented in court. It is June 12th, and Ephraim Tobias is convicted of various offenses. Charges vary from illegal wildlife trading and unlawful possession of animal remains to slaughtering of endangered wildlife species listed with CITES. Tobias is sentenced to 18 months imprisonment. Ephraim Tobias stares blankly at the streaky, discolored wall in front of him. As the jail gate slams shut and the locks grate into position, the clanking and scraping sounds of solid steel ricochets off the walls. To him, this signifies a bone-chilling warning that whenever DNA speaks, the dead come alive.